Hello, this is Grace Nasrallah from Biz Reflections, and today we are going to address the topic of CRB and CERB. What is the difference between CRB and CERB? My guest today is Bakr Bahati, business and management consultant from PAS. Hello, Bakr.
Hello, Grace. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure.
My first question to is my first question to you is who is eligible to apply for Canada Recovery Benefit, which
Thank
is
you, Grace.
CRB, right?
Right. So, with reference to CRB, we need to keep in mind that basically it's a transitional mechanism and it is primarily provided for gig workers and self-employed who doesn't have or who don't have the employment insurance or EI benefit. So there are certain eligibility requirements for each applicant. First of all, it applies to those who are at least 15 years old, they reside in Canada, they have a valid social insurance number, and they must have earned at least $5,000 in year 2019 or year 2020 or past 12 months before making any application. And more importantly, the income, average weekly income earned by each applicant should have fallen or reduced by at least 50% when compared with average weekly income earned in year 2019 or 2020, as the case may be.
So the age matters, and then the decrease in income matters as well,
Exactly,
right?
definitely.
So
Decrease in
these are
income
two
and
important factors.
very right, very right.
Yeah. My next question is what is the difference between CRB and CERB?
You see, basically, CRB and CERB, we need to keep in mind that basically CRB is the extension of CERB, but of course, there are certain significant differences. For example, CRB, when initially it was CERB, when initially it was introduced, it was extended up to 7 months, and people could apply on a monthly basis. There was no tax deduction. You would get $2,000 for each period, that is 1 month period. But when it comes to CRB or Canada Recovery Benefit, they made certain changes to differentiate it from CERB. In fact, what CR is looking for to plug in the loopholes which they thought were present in the CERB system. So under CRB, the main points of differences are that you need to apply on a fortnightly or 2 weeks basis instead of on a monthly basis. Besides this 2 weeks period is that once a period has passed. So I mean, in case of CRB, we used to apply before or at the start of the period, eligibility period. But in case of CRB, you need to apply at the end of each eligibility period comprising 2 weeks. Second important difference is that CERB was paid without any tax deduction. That is $2,000 per month was paid you. And of course, at the time when you have to file your taxes, you have to pay personal income tax on that. But in case of CRB, what they're doing is that they're going to deduct advance tax at the rate of 10%. So for each 2 weeks period, instead of getting $1,000, the applicant will be receiving only $900. So in a way, they're trying to facilitate you so that at the year end, when you file your taxes, so you don't have to pay a huge amount for personal income tax. So since they have already made this advanced tax deduction, so that liability would be lower. Another important point then you need to keep in mind is that with reference to CRB, there was a condition that anyone who is going to earn more than $1,000, he or she was ineligible for CERB. But in case of CRB, they have removed that restriction. Now you can earn up to $38,000 in a year, but they have added one additional condition. And this condition says that before applying for each eligibility period, the applicant must ensure that his or her average weekly income has fallen by more than 50% when compared with the average weekly income earned in either year 2019 or 2020 or past 12 months, as the case may be. So, I mean, with these slight differences, so what CRA is trying to look for is that only eligible person should get this benefit, and at the end of the day, their tax liability should have already been recovered to some extent to relieve them from that burden.
Mhm. Now, Bakr, you mentioned at the beginning that one has to apply every 2 weeks now.
Yes, 2 weeks. Very right. It's 2 weeks, so there will be 13 eligibility periods. So basically, the CRB has started from 27 October, and this will continue up to 25 October 2021. But there are only 13 eligibility periods, so it's one's choice whether you just start applying and take all those in one go. If you believe that, I mean, in the first 13 period you meet all those conditions, and if in between you feel that you are not, you don't meet those conditions, you may take a pause and then you may reapply. But the total number of applications that any individual can make is only 13 on a 2 week basis period.
Mm.
That is 6 months or 6.5 months, precisely speaking.
Mm. What is the most critical aspect of CRB for an applicant?
Okay, as I've just mentioned, basically they have added one thing, that before making any application or each application, the applicant must ensure that their average weekly income has fallen by more than 50% when compared with year 2019 average weekly income, or year 2020, or the past 12 months. Now, there's a catch in it. You see, if your income pattern is variable in nature, so I mean, on it keeps on changing on a weekly basis or fortnightly basis or even on a monthly basis, so then you have to make sure that you make accurate calculations before applying for each eligibility period. So there may be a situation that you make wrong calculation and you just apply, so at the end of the day you might have to return all that CRB benefit. So this may appear to be laborious to some individuals who may not be comfortable with these calculations, especially if you are a gig or self-employed worker. There may be certain business expenses. You have to account for those business expenses also. But we know that there are certain business expenses like capital cost allowance or some expenses that we only know at the end of the year. So how you're going to apportion those expenses on a fortnightly basis and make sure that your average weekly income is less than 50% or more than 50%, whether it makes you eligible or ineligible, may be a tricky issue for, I believe, many applicants.
Mm. Um, is there anything else we need to know about?
I believe we have discussed all important aspects of CRB. So my emphasis is only on this, that whenever you are going to apply, make sure that your average weekly income has fallen by more than 50%, because this is something where some, I mean, majority of the people may be confused, because you can be pretty sure that whether you have earned $5,000 in 2019 or 2020, you can figure out that fairly easily. But I mean, making this calculation as a ritual on before making application for each eligibility period may really be problematic for many people, and it should be given serious concern, so that later on it may have, consequences for the applicant.
Mhm, mhm. And the people that are eligible, they could be employed with maybe lowered income, or they could be unemployed, or they could be self-employed, right?
You see, yes, primarily this is for gig or self-employed workers, because if you're an employee, there is an EI deduction and you may be following that route, that is employment insurance. But since EI is not mandatory for self-employed or gig workers as we know it, so primarily CRB is meant for these two classes. And another important aspect that we need to keep in mind is regarding eligibility, that you must not have left your job voluntarily. So you must be seeking for job opportunities, whether it's self-employment or gig work, whatever is it, during each period. So I mean, the CRA would really look into, and they would ask you whether are you actively looking for business opportunities, self-employment, and all that. Or you are simply just resting at home and just asking for CRB. So this is something that may be an additional point of concern. So people, we have to be wary about it.
Mm.
Applicants. Mhm.
Well, thank you, Bakr. This is very important information, and I would like to thank the people that are watching, and hopefully very soon I'll come back to you with nice topics, important topics that matter to small business owners and entrepreneurs. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.